Until one day I'm walking up to my office where I am now, and he leans across the fence. He goes, "Morning, Tim." Good morning, Brian. He said, "So I see you doing that meditation in your office. Is that any good, is it?" And I said, "Oh, quite surprised he, would ask." I said, "Yeah, I really like it, Brian." And Brian says, he says, I can't do that meditation." I said, "Really?" I was quite surprised he'd ever tried. He said, "No, I can't do that meditation because if I still my mind, I become a bird." I said, "I'm sorry, Brian."
Hello and welcome to the Mind Detox podcast. Here, we're going to discover a new way to think, feel and heal while exploring our spiritual side. I'm your host, Sandy Newbigging, also known as the Mind Detox Monk, because, well, I'm a monk and a meditation teacher, and for the past 15 years or so, I've been working with people from around the world using a method that I accidentally created called Mind Detox. Mind Detox is all about curing the unconscious causes of physical, emotional, or life issues. So stick around if something is going on in your body, emotions, or life, and you don't know why, because we'll be exploring the possible mind-based causes during this or an upcoming episode. As a monk who's written 12 books and meditated for thousands of hours, the topics of inner peace and living in the present moment will most likely be a thread that runs through many of our episodes. So stick around again if you want to stress less and be still more. This podcast includes highlights from my online club and academy meetings, expert interviews, guided meditations, and more. All so that you can cure the cause and master peace. For today's episode, I've reached into my archive of expert interviews to share a classic Chit Chat from 2012. I talked to my friend and philosopher Tim Freke about how it's all too easy to get caught up in the daily chores and challenges that we end up missing the magic. Stay tuned if you've ever felt bored or burdened by the stuff going on in your life or world, as Tim shares super inspiring advice and stories for making the mundane magical. I thought of you when it came to this special topic, because what I want people to get by the end of the next 25 minutes or so is I want you to imagine this, Tim. Someone's like caught up in the mortgage, they're caught up in the deadlines and the stress and they're caught up in the mundane. And I want them to have this little video that they can go to be reminded of, actually, there's some magic out there, there's some magic in here, and just have this video they could watch and go, all right, cool, yeah, there's more to life than mundane. Do you know what I mean?
I do, absolutely, by golly, yeah. Aren't we all going, get caught up in that from time to time, for sure.
Exactly. So you are the ideal person to talk to when it comes to remembering and exploring the mystery.
Well, the way it seems to me in my own life and watching everyone else, all of us, I think we're all the same in different ways, is that human beings are habitual. And it's a good thing. We need to be habitual. If we weren't habitual, we'd be lost. The whole of nature is like one big habit. One of the things I love, there's this biologist, Rupert Sheldrake, and he says we should stop talking about the laws of nature and start talking about the habits of nature, because it's like one big habit. It's got into these habits. And human beings have come up through nature, and what do you know? They've got habits, and they find a solution, they get through, and they stick with it. All of which is incredibly useful, because if we didn't do that, we'd having to meet every new moment. If we actually met every new moment fresh, we'd be completely lost. We have to meet it with the past.
Yeah.
But it comes with a high price. And the price is that that as you get older, especially, you can see, young kids are right there like, wow, what's this? What's that? And then as you get older, it's like watching, I get it when I watch sheep. When you see in the spring, you see the lambs and they're like, boo, boo, like this. And then next door to them, you see the sheep and they're like this. Boom, boom. And you just think, how did that happen? How did that turn into that? And I look at human beings and we're kind of the same. You see us, we're coming in and we're like, woo, woo. And then you see us once we've habituated and it's like, God, I got to get through. What are you doing? Waking up, the alarm's gone. And what we're missing is what we knew as children, which is the magic of life. And it's right there. Now, right at the other end of life, what I see, when I was working with people who were dying, which I did in my 20s and 30s, what I saw was that when you face the possibility that this boring, routine existence you've got to struggle through is actually going to go, you suddenly see it's a lot more than just a boring struggle. You suddenly see how precious it is, how amazing it is to sense something, to be alive, just to breathe, to look at the view out the window, to be with someone you love, to take on a new challenge that's hard and you're kind of frightened of. All of those things suddenly become, God, I want those things. Yeah. I actually want the life I've got. Yeah. So a huge amount of waking up seems about waking up to that now rather than waiting to the point where it's like you might have to go.
Yeah. I mean, I've had that in relationships before where, like, you can kind of, when you first meet someone, it's like, wow, and your heart explodes. And just as time goes on, you're like, it's again, this habitual thing kicks in, isn't it? And then before you know it, if the person's about to leave, you suddenly remember all the amazing things about them.
That's right. Certainly when they've gone, suddenly it's like, God, I'm glad that's over. But actually, oh my God, oh yeah. And the analogy with a love affair, I think, is a brilliant analogy because, well, it's kind of not just an analogy. It's almost like the same thing is being represented there that is represented generally. What is your love affair with life like? I do see myself having a love affair with life. And the same thing happens. You meet someone, but what happens when you fall in love with another person? You see the mystery in them, don't you? You just look at them and you just think, wow, and you look in their eyes and I don't know who you are, you're just amazing. And even better, they look in yours and go, I know, and I don't know who you are either, and it's amazing. And you set yourselves free. And suddenly, when that person looks at you in that way, you can be anything you want to be. And you can be the very best of yourself. And they're bringing it out of you and you feel, God, I love being with that person. I just want to be with them all the time. And then you're with them all the time. And then sooner or later, the story comes in and then you've got a story about them. And then it's like, yeah, Sandy, that's just what Sandy would do, isn't it? Damn it. It's like, and then we get into this suddenly, rather than seeing the mystery in each other, we see the story. We see this concept, this idea. Oh, you would do that, wouldn't you? And then the magic goes. And we say we've fallen out of love because we've lost the mystery. We've just got this concept now. We're no longer seeing the reality. Exactly. We're just seeing a concept.
Exactly. And so, having read your book, The Mystery Experience, I absolutely love how you, through reminding people about how amazing it is that we're on this rock flying through space and all this sort of stuff, you kind of remember, yeah, this is quite awesome. You know what I mean? So can you share with the viewers today just a few of these, facts that you've come across that have really helped to remind you of the mystery?
Well, it's just here in every breath. I mean, one of the things I love is science, because science, rather than closing it down, a lot of people think that science has kind of destroyed the mystery, as if, well, I'd like to think it was magical and mysterious, but I'm going to have to just accept the hard facts that, it's a meaningless lump of matter slowly evolving for no reason, and monkeys on a piece of rock and all that. But it's not saying that. It's really not. What science has discovered by looking carefully at this is astonishing. One of the things I love is that, and we've known this for 100 years or more, is that this isn't here. Now, just to catch up with that, just to feel, okay, it feels like it's here, but we know it's not. We know that 99.99999999999% of it is nothing. That's an awful lot of nothing. And the stuff which is there is kind of possibilities, which interacts with consciousness in some way we don't understand to bring this into some sort of tangible existence. Wow, how mysterious is that? And I feel like then, when I look at the night sky and you just think, right, okay, so it's that looking very small and it's that strange. You look out at the night sky and you go, well, one of the facts I loved was the Hubble telescope. This incredible telescope. We've had it for ages now, but the very first thing they did when they opened it up was just focus it on a spot of nothing in the night sky, see what was there. And what they found in a tiny pinprick was 14 galaxies. Now that's galaxies, not stars. That's 14 galaxies. And each galaxy contains around 100 billion stars. That's 14 galaxies, each with around 100 billion stars in every pinprick of the night sky. And suddenly you think, hang on, if I think I know what's going on here, I'm out of my mind. Yeah. I'm truly crazy. And what that does is it just wakes you up to this, look, we're on this journey. It's a phenomenal journey. It's tough. It's everything, actually, isn't it? It's wonderful, it's hard, it's beautiful, it's cruel. It's the ultimate drama. And we're the stars of it. You know, each one of us is the star of the show. One of the great mysteries of life I love is that, you know, like, you know, in Tim's life, Tim's the star. He's in every scene. He's the main man, and everyone else is a walk-on. And in your life, you're the main man. It's all about you. It's the Sandy story. You know, here we are, the Tim stories meeting the Sandy story. And this whole universe, which isn't really there, in a galaxy so big you can't even begin to put your head around it, so old, has all come together for this moment now, that we're here doing this, that we can connect. And you just think, wow, how did I miss that? How did I get so narrow that it was just these, because it is that, that's not going to go, but it's not just that. It's also, wow, you know, just wow.
And just taking a moment to consider the magnitude of the minute as well, it totally changed the relationship with it, doesn't it? So, like, you know, because you're like, I've got the bills, I've got this and the next thing, but at the same time, there is this huge mystery that we have no clue about.
Yes, exactly that. So the two are sitting side by side. One of the big ideas for me, which is hugely important, is what I call paralogical thinking, which is which is understanding that life is fundamentally paradoxical. That's its nature. So, for instance, you know, that this clearly is there. Look, it's there, but it's also not, and they're both true. And like you're saying, you get down to the minute quantum particles, and they both behave like waves and particles. They're kind of individual, and they're not. And everything has that quality. It's both this and that, and they're opposites. So for me, what brings life to life, what makes me remember the mystery in life. So my love affair with life isn't. So I'm not just getting on with life like you get on with someone in a stale relationship. Yeah, you're in love with it, even when it's shitty. Yeah, because you know what that's like. You know, you can be in a relationship and going, damn it, you're driving me nuts, but I still love you. I'm still in love with it. And I want to be like with life. Yes, it drives me nuts. Yes, I wish it would behave in other ways. Yes, there's things about it I can't stand, but I still love it. Yeah. And I love it because I still see that whilst there is all of that practical necessity and I have to engage with it and it's tough and sometimes it's really terrible suffering, the opposite is also true at all times. It's also the most magnificent mystery. I'm also just so lucky to be here at all, to be on this journey. Lucky. Really. And so that even when there's lots of things that I'm really not pleased about, there's a deep gratitude as well, not instead. And this has been hugely helpful to me because like most people, I used to think I had to be in one or the other. Yeah. Either I'd be I'm so grateful for, you know, and how can I be grateful when all this shit is happening? Well, what about being both? What about being really grateful and going, and this is shit? And what I found is because life is paradoxical, I can embrace paradox. And I can be in two places at once where I can meet you and go, look, there's things I could tell you about right now which really are not too good in the life of Tim, because that's true of all of us. And we're on the journey, man. It's happening. Isn't that amazing? And I'm so grateful for that.
It's just crossed my mind, but do you feel it's useful to surround yourself with people that have a similar experience or interest in exploration of life as you do?
Yes. Yes, I really do. And, you know, I have been very, very lucky in my life because I have always had that. I meet a lot of people who don't have that. Mm-hmm. Because I've always had it, it's very hard for me to imagine not having it. Yeah. But I know it's hugely important to me. But one of the things I found is that if it becomes the thing which is your passion, then you soon find you either attract people to you, or the people that are already around you start going, yeah, actually, I'm quite, that's waking me up. And
Exactly.
what's happened for me is that since I was a teenager, I found that people around me started to wake up because I was so interested in waking up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't anything special about me. It was just, that's what I was interested in. So the ones that were, kind of came with me. And I think that sense of being equal explorers of life is hugely valuable.
Yeah.
So that you can surround yourself by people who can tell you the truth, be honest with you, you can be honest with them, that you can show how big you are and how vulnerable and small you are, both too, is really just such a really important thing.
And within that, it really, there's some boldness required initially. Because, what I find is like, there'll be some times when I could, have judged somebody thinking, oh, they wouldn't be interested in this. But if I'm just bold with one moment and show appreciation or just share my love for that moment, or I'm about to burst with bliss or something, or whatever, suddenly they go, yeah, I think about that as well. And they think about it, but they don't necessarily talk about it.
Can I tell you a little story?
Yeah,
We've got time for a little story?
Yeah.
So I now live in the house just over there, because we moved into a house and that was next door to the one we were living in. And the guy used to live in there. He's dead now. And it was a man called Brian, and he was a Somerset man, and he worked on the motorways. And he smoked heavily, and I'd hear him in the morning coughing like mad, and he'd walk up the garden, and he had garden was just full of stuff. And he was Brian. And I'd say hello to him over the fence. He'd go, hello, and that was that. And I never, ever thought that I would talk about anything like this to Brian, because Brian was interested in other things. Until one day, I'm walking up to my office where I am now, and he leans across the fence. He goes, morning, Tim. Good morning, Brian. He said, so I see you doing that meditation in your office. Is that any good, is it? And I said, oh, quite surprised he, would ask. I said, yeah, I really like it, Brian. And Brian says, he says, I can't do that meditation. I said, really? I was quite surprised he'd ever tried. He said, no, I can't do that meditation because if I still my mind, I become a bird. I said, I'm sorry, Brian. He said, oh, yeah.
Sorry, Brian.
It happened the first time when my wife was dying. He said, I was very still, and I was here, and then the curtain started to move, and I became a bird, and I was flying over these landscapes. He says, I get it when I go to the optician as well, and they do these tests on me. And it was just, and there was Brian, my next door neighbor, who was a guy who worked on the roads that I would never do. And Brian, is a shapeshifter. And it's having these, and that's actually my experience, is that underneath the veil, we're all having it. Because life is like this. Everyone is. There's no exception.
Exactly. So let's create
It's just the readiness to come out and say it.
Let's create a ripple. Exactly. The readiness to come out and say it. So step one, if people take something from this call so far, is to start looking for the mystery today. Start looking for the miraculous in what's occurring within you. The fact that your heart's beating 100,000 times today, that always gets me.
Yeah.
Pumping blood around the vascular system reaches 60,000 miles, twice the circumference of the Earth. That's just amazing for me. What's the sorts of mysteries, but even just like a slug or something. They're incredible things.
Yeah.
Notice the mystery, but then share it with somebody.
Yeah.
And see the ripple effect that could happen from that.
And when you share it, what greater mystery is there than what we're doing now? Yeah, and you can approach this as I tend to on a very deep mystical level, but let's not do that. Let's just approach it on a very everyday level, because it's just as mysterious. Which is right now, there's this body called Tim connecting through this strange, miraculous internet with this body called Sandy. But actually, here there is somewhere, it has no space, there's a whole psyche, a soul happening. I'm thinking thoughts, having feelings, and they're private and they're individual. And so are you. And there's full of hopes and fears and worries and amazing things, and same with you. And then through this, those two things, which I can't see yours and you can't see mine, are connecting. Isn't that incredible? That that presence of the psyche of the soul is connecting through this dance of sensation with each other. And that happens every time we meet. And we don't even notice it. We're reaching through, and we're doing it now symbolically. That's amazing too, isn't it? That what's arising in my psyche is these words or ideas first, and then they're getting transmitted into words, and then my porridge is doing its magic thing to make the words somehow get in, and then it's through, and my jaw's moving, and I'm making funny noises and breathing out with in my tongue, and then the vibrations are going through the air, and now these connections in the air and through the microphone and down through the internet, and then boof out your speakers, and then through the air and in your porridge, and boof, and through that incredible connection, we are able to share this moment and share these ideas. Or you could say we're just having a chat.
Well, we're having both.
That's the choice. Exactly, that's the choice. You can, when you see the mystery, it's just what it was already, with all of its beauty and all of its problems. It's just there's immense appreciation for it. There's a wonder of it. And that wonder needs to be shared. When you share it, it increases. Without doubt, it really does.
Mm. Absolutely. I always think it's amazing how we literally live in a silent universe. Like there's just silence out there, but my little ear, hairs on my eardrum are vibrating to create the inner appearance of sound. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. One of the things I love about it makes me always laugh, because when you watch these documentaries, like on evolution, and you see, before there were any animals, there was a great luscious vegetation, and you see all these trees and green trees. None of that existed because there were no eyes. There was no green. None of that happened. Green had not come into existence. One of the key ones of getting that, look at this, is a little bit of magic, is think of the rainbow. There was no rainbows before there were eyes to see it. It's light reflecting through rain. You can't see that without eyes. There were no rainbows. They came into existence with us to see, or with eyes. And all of it's like that. It's, it's just to think about it, to wonder with the mind and with the heart. There's the wondering, because we've been talking really about kind of the wondering with the heart, that appreciation. But there's also with the mind, equally interesting. Wow, what's that about? How's that? What am I doing here?
One of the games I play with or share in my new book is encourage people to look out from their heart. Like if you're looking at me, if you're listening to me now and looking at the little pixels on the screen stuff, but you start looking less from here but more from here, I find it just pulls me into the body, into the experience, and into the quietness and stillness. Like I see it in your eyes.
I love it. Yeah,
it's looking out from the heart.
Yeah.
It's just so many games. I love exploring consciousness. I love exploring this moment. I love exploring the inner experience and the outer experience of life. And I find that when my life's not as rich if I'm just doing one.
Absolutely. That's the both and. I mean, honestly, given the choice, I'd just do this. If I could. But life has got other plans for me. Life also has built into it necessity. And consciousness has arisen through necessity. And the first thing we experience, once we're freed from our ape strings, parents' care, is the necessity. We have to feed, we have to shelter. It's in nature. And this necessity must be, demands to be met. But from that comes culture, and comes consciousness, and comes the ability to have moments like this. So for me, it's like, well, I'd love to get rid of necessity, but you can't. Even very rich people don't get rid of necessity. They just have the necessity not to lose all their money. And they're just as wound up with necessity. I've met lots of rich people, and they're not all sitting there the whole time going, sorted, I'm just having a great time. They're actually the same as everybody else. Because necessity is one of the poles of life. The key thing is not to get so caught up into necessity that you're missing the ecstasy, the chance to be free, so that we can either do both at once, or at least keep returning from one to the other. So we can, if you let necessity go, your life will fall to bits. But on the other hand, if you let ecstasy go, your life will become meaningless. It will become a chore. So we need to make room for both, so we can really appreciate the journey we're on.
Beautiful, beautiful. So if we're if someone's watching this and they have been having a bit of a mundane time, very clear, concise thing they can do watching this and for the next few minutes after it, and more if they want to play with. What can they do to start to, they might feel really low, they might be feeling like really, it seems like a long way to go from where I'm at to the mystery and magic of living. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I do know what you mean, yeah.
What can you offer someone who's kind of there and they want this, but they just feel it's out of their grasp?
Okay, well, the thing to find is that sense for me of just like to step out of your story. We've all got the reason that you're feeling that way is because you've got a story about how life is. Now, the thing about that story is that it will be no good pretending it's not true, because there'll be things about it which are true. That's why you're feeling it. Unless you're really lost, there's truth in your story.
Yeah.
But rather than going, no, get away from it, just go, okay, there's my story, and that's making me feel like bleh. But as well, not instead, but as well, on a deeper level, I have no idea what life is. I don't know what it is to live. I don't know what it is, this universe. I don't even know what these hands are. I don't know what I am. I don't know any of that. Now that also can seem like a long way off. If you're really oofed, it can be like, yeah, I kind of understand that, but I can't do it. And there's a little story. Can I tell one more story? This is an old Sufi story. The Islamic mystics tell this story, and I really like it. It's a silly story, but I like it. And it's a story. It's a fairy tale, and the fairy tale is about the princess who's stuck in a tower, and the prince who wants to rescue her, and the princess is the soul, and the prince is you trying to rescue her, and he comes up with this cunning plan. And what she does is she drops this little thread of honey down the tower. And then he gets an insect. And he ties a tiny thread to the insect. And the insect eats the honey to the top of the tower. And she gets the thread. And then he ties to the thread a piece of string, and she pulls up the thread, and then she's got the string. And then she ties to the string a piece of rope, and he pulls up the string, she's got the rope, and then she ties the rope, and she comes down the tower. Now, what I love about that story is it really fits with my experience, if I understand it allegorically, that there is always that little drip of honey in the moment. It can be just a tiny, and if it's like, how can I get out of the tower? I can't. But what I can do is find the drip of honey. And if I can follow the drip of honey, then it can lead to something stronger. And then there's something stronger. And then there's something stronger. And then I can get out. So the step for me is like, okay, don't expect necessarily just to come out, but find the honey in the moment and put your attention on that instead of just the story which is getting you down. And if you keep with it and you just follow it like that insect going up the tower, you will come out, because life is always magical, even in the worst of moments. It's sometimes most obviously in the worst of moments. Life is more magical than words can say.
You've covered it, captured it, nailed it. Thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, it's a real pleasure, as always, to speak to you, Sandy. And congratulations on your book.
Thank you very much. And yours. I'm sure there'll be information somewhere around this video where people can find your book, should they want to, and explore your amazing retreats as well.
Great.
I had the most amazing time when I visited your retreat, and it stayed with me until today. It's still with me. So love you lots, and I'll be in touch.
Beautiful.
Bye.